How's it hanging, Ram fans? Welcome back to the Monday Night Sports Show. I'm Madeline Davis.
And I'm Brendon Fairbairn. The Rams traveled to Iowa City to take on the 5th-ranked Hawkeyes on Saturday, and they hung in there tough. See how it all went down.
Volleyball tipped off Mountain West play with a bang. We'll get you caught up on everything that happened in Moby.
And to end off the night, we'll finally have time to duke it out in Hot or Not. All of that and more in CTV Sports, starting right now. On Saturday, CSU traveled to Kinnick Stadium to take on probably their toughest test in years. The number 5 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes, who were 24-point favorites, and many Ram fans, including myself, thought the Hawks would easily cover that spread. But to the surprise of many of us here in Fort Collins, Coach Adazio's team was able to keep this one relatively close. In the end, losing this one by only 10 points, 24-14. To start this one out, Iowa jumped out to an early 7-0 lead late in the first half, but the Rams, led by their defense, hung in there tough. Scoring 14 unanswered points from a 7-yard Todd Centeo touchdown run and a 3-yard touchdown catch from Gary Williams, which actually gave CSU the lead at halftime. The unlikely upset bid for the Rams was short-lived, though, with the Hawkeyes scoring 2 touchdowns in just 4 plays in the third quarter. Set up by a CSU turnover near their own goal line and a long punt return from the Hawkeyes, Tyrone Tracy Jr. had a 6-yard rush to tie things up, and Sam Laporta had a 27-yard touchdown catch to give the Hawks a lead they would never give back. The only point scored after that was a late field goal by Iowa to put the Hawkeyes up by 2 possessions. But even though the Rams came up short, they still have a lot of positives to build off of. For one, their defense played great, holding the Hawkeyes to 52 yards on the ground and 224 through the air with 3 sacks. And slowly but surely, the offense is starting to click, but it still isn't there, mostly due to injuries. Dante Wright is still out, and David Bailey was injured on his first carry of the game. After Saturday, CSU is getting a little bit of respect from the AP poll, jumping 21 spots from 123 to 101 in the nation. After this difficult road test, the Rams head into their bye this weekend before returning back to Canvas Stadium on October 9th to start conference play, facing off against last year's Mountain West champs, the San Jose State Spartans. Honestly, I cannot wait for that game. The crowd's going to be electric for Parents Weekend. I really think CSU can pull it off since San Jose is kind of struggling.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm excited to see how it plays out. Hopefully they can finally get a home win.
Yeah. I think I know they won against Toledo, but I think this will be their first home win.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully it happens. Moving off the field and onto the court, the Lady Rams took on the Boise State Broncos on Thursday night, coming into this one hoping to secure their first conference win of this young season. And well, they did just that. To start the match off, CSU came out swinging, taking the first set 25-22, without letting the Broncos even taste a lead. The second set, however, was a bit more of a back-and-forth deal, but the Rams still ended it on top, with a score of 25-23. And in period number 3, the Broncos appeared to be taking control, leading until the last couple points. But just like set 2, the Rams were able to stay just within striking distance, eventually taking it 25-22 to secure the straight set win against their conference rivals in blue. Sophomore Kennedy Stanford led the team with 13 kills, while redshirt junior Jackie Van Leefda was right behind her with 8. Fellow redshirt junior Sierra Pritchard also had quite the game, securing 30 assists and 2 service aces. After the win, CSU returned to Moby Saturday to take on Utah State, where their performance was much of the same. How'd they do, Brendon?
That's right, Madeline. The Rams carried that success into Saturday night when they faced off against the Aggies, winning with yet another 3-0 sweep. To start, CSU took the first set 25-17 with an impressive .424 hitting percentage. That set the tone for the rest of the match, with the Rams winning the next 2 sets 25-21 and 25-8. Sophomore outside hitter Kennedy Stanford held a .500 hitting percentage for most of the match and accounted for almost half of the team's total kills with 16. And redshirt junior Sierra Pritchard did what she does best, leading CSU in assists like she usually does with 29, which puts her third in the Mountain West for assists. After winning 6 out of their last 8 games, the Rams move into third in the conference standings. And next up on the schedule is a big one, with CSU taking on their out-of-state rival, the Wyoming Cowboys, tomorrow night at Moby Arena. As of now, this squad is undefeated in conference play, but they shouldn't underestimate the 8-6 Cowboys, who rank third for blocks per game in the Mountain West, 7th in assists, and 6th in digs. Madeline and I will be there to update you all of the action. I'm really excited for this game. Obviously, anytime CSU plays Wyoming, it's going to be a fun one for the border war. I think if the Rams would go 3-0 in conference play, that could boost them up, I think, to second place in the Mountain West.
I totally agree. I think they're playing really well right now. And I think, I know that maybe the first 2 weren't, the toughest matches, but still, I mean, just like how they've played the season, it's gonna be a really good season, I think.
Yeah, like I said, you can't underestimate Wyoming. They always give the best when they play the Rams.
Yeah, for sure. Gotta love those rivalries. Unfortunately, unlike volleyball, CSU soccer didn't find the same success on the pitch this weekend. After their 6-0 win entering last week's bye, the Rams came into their conference opener against SDSU with some added confidence, but it didn't quite carry over to Friday's match. While the Rams defense stood tall, only allowing 1 goal on 6 shots near the net, the offense wasn't even close to as productive. CSU took a total of 11 shots, only 2 of which were on goal. Obviously a very low number when compared to the Aztecs' whopping 20 shots. But while the Rams may have lost their conference opener, that newfound confidence hasn't been lost yet, with senior forward Kristen Noonan saying, quote, "We had a few goals for this game. We did those goals, and there were some goals we didn't. We're just focusing on the next game and getting better every day," end quote. And after dropping another one against New Mexico yesterday, the Rams travel to California for a 2-game road trip in Cali, facing the Fresno State Bulldogs this Friday at 8 p.m.
Now on to the other type of football. The Denver Broncos remain undefeated on this young season after crushing the visiting New York Jets 26-0, their first shutout since 2019. Against a terrible Jets offense, the Broncos defense had their way with rookie Zach Wilson, picking him off 2 times and holding him to only 160 yards passing, also sacking him 5 times. The Jets' run game also struggled to do much of anything, with only 43 yards rushing. Yesterday, the only real bright spot for the Jets on offense was Corey Davis, and he still only had 5 receptions for 41 yards. Teddy Bridgewater continues to do his job with no turnovers and 225 yards through the air, giving Denver the steady QB play they've been desperately needing. This week wasn't as big of a performance for Bridgewater, only having a 61.7 passer rating, but he protected the ball and made a lot of plays with his legs, adding 24 rushing yards on 4 attempts, and both Broncos running backs are starting to form a strong 1-2 punch, with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon both finding the end zone for the only touchdown scored on the afternoon. Denver stuck with the running game for most of the day and were able to control the time of possession with 35 minutes with the ball. Tim Patrick was 2 yards short of a 100-yard game and is turning into one of Bridgewater's favorite targets with Judy and Hamler both injured. And I get it, this team's first 3 opponents so far have combined for 0 wins and 9 losses. But in the NFL, you can only play who you're scheduled. The first real test will come next week when the Broncos take on Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens at Empower Field at Mile High. This game will prove if the Broncos are for real or if their first 3 games were just flukes. Madeline, I am going to that game. I am so excited to see Lamar Jackson, but I think the Broncos have such good outside linebackers that they will be able to contain Lamar Jackson. I think get the W and show the league that they're for real.
Honestly, I agree. I mean, I think they're playing they've improved so much from the past couple seasons. It's really exciting to finally see them win again.
Yeah, I love this defense that Vic Fangio has really put together, and I think it's going to be the best in the league down the stretch.
Yeah, I honestly see them making the playoffs again this year.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. And well, Ram fans, it's time for a break. When we come back, I'll give you a look at how the Rams participated in the famous Iowa Wave. You won't want to miss it.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes and you come to mine. This is it, first impression, my way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
Welcome back from the break, Ram fans, and to another installment of Missed Moments, where I cover everything you may have missed from this past week. Against Iowa, CSU football didn't only get the chance to lose to a top 5 team this weekend, but they also got to experience something way bigger than the game itself, the Iowa Wave. Where Kinnick Stadium is located, there is a huge children's hospital sitting right behind it, which was finished in 2017. It was built with the idea of letting these kids and their families watch the Hawkeye games while they're getting treated. The top floor of the hospital is called the press box, and those getting treated and their loved ones are allowed up there on game days to watch their home team in action. After the facility was finished, an Iowa fan went to social media to suggest that fans should do something to help cheer up these kids. I mean, they're so close to their windows, right? And in 2017, at the end of the first quarter against Wyoming, an Iowa announcer told the crowd to turn around and wave at the kids, and thus the famous wave was born. Videos and pictures of this movement began circulating throughout the sporting world, and it touched the hearts of people nationwide, including myself. Before leaving for Iowa, CSU players were asked about the wave and asked to share their thoughts. Running back Ajon Vivens said, quote, "It's going to be a great thing to experience in person. Even when I watched it on TV, it brought chills to me," end quote. And his positive thoughts were backed up by fellow teammate Cam Butler, who said, quote, "I think it's real nice they do that for those kids. That's something a lot bigger than football," end quote. Butler was one of the players that expressed that he was going to participate in the wave, as well as defensive lineman Manny Jones. The wave is a great reminder that at the end of the day, sports are not about winning or losing, but rather about inspiring others and bringing people together. And we saw just that this weekend when CSU got to partake in this new Iowa tradition. Moving along this week, I thought it would be cool to share my top 3 plays of the week that you may have missed. Let's jump right into it. My number 3 play of the week, or actually make that 2 plays, comes from the Phoenix Mercury's 83-82 win over the New York Liberty in this year's WNBA playoffs. This was a crazy back and forth. Let's take a look. Diggins comes down. She passes Liberty. You think, oh, she might go for the layup. Nope, passes to Sophie Cunningham, who then sinks it in for the 3. And then right after that, Diggins goes out again, passes to her 6'9" teammate Griner, who then passes it to Sophie Cunningham, who gets knocked over by Liberty, but gets it just in time to make that 3. Both Skylar Diggins and Sophie Cunningham were huge contributors to that 1-point victory for Mercury. Sophie Cunningham even had 6 3-pointers in that game, which, not gonna lie, that's pretty impressive. Moving from the basketball court and onto the tennis court, my number 2 highlight comes from the Laver Cup, where Stefanos Tsitsipas and Andrei Rublev took on Nick Kyrgios and John Isner in doubles. With Kyrgios and Isner playing together, you knew this had to be an exciting match. And oh, was it. So they started out, Rublev had the serve, took it cross court. Kyrgios comes in, poaches it. Tsitsipas gets it back. Isner goes back down the line. They hit down the line for a while. Rublev takes it to Kyrgios, who then drop shots it, and then Rublev comes back for the cross-court winner. Oh, that was a pretty exciting point. And while Rublev and Tsitsipas ended up losing that first set, they did end up taking the match in 3 sets. And for my number 1 play of the week, I had to go with this incredible catch from everyone's favorite third baseman, Nolan Arenado. So as you can see, the Brewers hit this way into foul territory. Nolan doesn't have to go for this, but knowing Nolan, of course he does. He runs all the way from basically short, catches it with the basket catch, falls into the tarp, holds onto the ball the whole time. And if you were a fan of him in Colorado, you probably remember a similar play that happened in San Francisco a couple years ago. And in my personal opinion, I feel like the catch in San Francisco was better, but I could be a little biased since he was on my team at the time. But, I mean, honestly, is this even impressive anymore? Like, this is just a routine play for him. But I guess it's just Nolan being Nolan. Well, those are all my missed moments I have for you this week. But don't touch that remote because after the break, Brendon will be back with 3 new players you need for your fantasy team.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back from the break and to the waiver wire. This week, I have 3 more guys to make you the best manager in your league. First off, we have Carolina Panthers running back Chuba Hubbard. The 4th-round draft pick out of Oklahoma State took over rushing duties for All-Pro rusher Christian McCaffrey, who suffered a hamstring injury late Thursday night that will sideline him for a couple of weeks. Hubbard had 11 carries for 52 yards with 3 receptions for 27 yards in just limited action. We saw what happened with Mike Davis last year when he took over rushing duties when McCaffrey got injured. He was able to have a breakout season and earn a starting job with the Falcons. I believe Hubbard has even more potential than Davis and can put up some high fantasy numbers until McCaffrey can come back. Once he returns, I would either release Hubbard or keep him on your bench just in case that hamstring continues to bother him. Hubbard is only rostered in 25% of leagues and should be fairly easy to pick up since many people don't know who Hubbard is. But don't worry, they will soon. Now let's move on to an old Denver Bronco favorite, Emmanuel Sanders, who's been a journeyman since he left the Broncos back in 2019, playing for the Niners, Saints, and now the Bills. Buffalo is a better match for him since they pass so much. The 34-year-old veteran runs a high percentage of routes on one of the most pass-heavy teams in the NFL. Buffalo's offense won't be this explosive every week, but Sanders' talents will likely come in handy once bye weeks start piling up. In week 1, he was on the field for 79 of Josh Allen's 85 passing attempts, so he is seeing significant playing time. In week 2, he only had 48 yards, but broke out yesterday for 6 catches, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns against a good Washington defense. Sanders is only owned in 25% of leagues, but I expect that number to double by Wednesday after that 26-point performance. Sanders showed fantasy owners that even though he is 34 years old, he could still play with the best of them. And moving on to yet another Panther, quarterback Sam Darnold looks like a completely different guy, and you should grab him for your team. For perspective on how Darnold has improved in Carolina, he only threw for 250 passing yards once in 2020 with the Jets. And as a Panther, he's accomplished that in all 3 games he's played this season, including 300-yard-plus performances the past 2 weeks. To add on to things, Darnold also has 3 rushing touchdowns this season, which is huge for fantasy. The stat that blew my mind, though, is that he's rated as the 2nd best fantasy quarterback and yet is only owned in 9% of leagues. In week 1, he had 19 fantasy points, 18 in week 2, and 25 on Thursday night. Those are solid numbers for any quarterback in this league. And his chemistry with Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and Terrence Marshall is already so developed for it only being week 3. It makes me so happy to see Sam Darnold succeed in a better organization and show everyone that he isn't a bust. If he keeps playing like this and the Carolina Panthers defense keeps playing how they are now, this team can be a problem, not only in the NFC South, but for the whole league. If you're in need of a different starting quarterback, you need to pick up Darnold right now. Any of these guys will make an impact for your team, and I highly suggest you pick up all 3 if you need the depth. But if you aren't able to, don't worry. I'll be back next week for some more under-the-radar players that you can sneakily pick up. We're going to take a quick break, but don't leave just yet. Madeline and I have some controversial topics that you won't want to miss in Hot or Not.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again. But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Thanks for sticking with us through the break, and welcome back to Hot or Not. I will start it off with my biggest hot take so far. I believe Rams football will finish with at least a 500 record at the end of the season. Before you say anything, I know what I said a few weeks ago, but this Iowa game has me a lot more optimistic. I think taking on the number 5 team in the nation and only holding them to 60 or under 60 yards rushing just shows how elite CSU's defense is. I know there's a lot of holes on that team, but hear me out. This is like one of the best defense CSU has had in a long time. I'd probably say since 2014. In the Mike Bobo era, it was all offense. Now it is all defense. Madeline, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I mean, it's, defense helps. It helps a lot. I mean,
defense wins championships.
That is true. I mean, look at the Broncos last time they won the Super Bowl. They won because they had the best defense.
Trust me, I know. That's my favorite time of my life.
I don't know. I just think they're too inconsistent for 500.
Okay, they are inconsistent, but hear me out on this one. Their offense has improved, and Dazio is finally opening up that playbook. Having 2 run plays up the middle, then a rollout to McBride was so one-dimensional, and I think Adazio finally got it together. They're throwing QB draws in there, and it kind of threw off a good Iowa's defense off. I think Iowa, they're the number 5 team in the nation. The only 2 teams that are good in the Mountain West is Boise State and Fresno State. And I really think they can beat San Jose State, New Mexico, Wyoming. I know they're playing good, Wyoming, but I really think we could beat them. Hawaii and Nevada, and that will put us at 500. You don't think that could happen?
I don't know. My thought is, what if people get hurt?
No, yeah, you're totally right, but you look at Dante Wright, one of our best players. He did get hurt, and we're doing really good without him. Look at Gary Williams. He's stepping up. They moved Panunzio back to offense, which I really like. He's a great speed option that makes up for Wright, but Wright's coming back. And going back to the defense, they have a great front 7. Like I said, holding them to under 6 yards rushing, Kamara and Patchman and Bailey. David Bailey's hurt now, so you had a good point about the injuries. But I really think this front 7 is elite, and I know the secondary always gets burned, but that secondary is coming together. They're very young. They look at the freshman. He almost had a pick 6 against Iowa. I really think this team could come together and play some really good football once conference play starts and take a win against San Jose State.
I mean, I would love to see it. I mean, I don't know that we've seen it yet. I mean, I think getting the win against Toledo, that was huge because no one expected that to happen. And I mean, even just keeping Iowa to 10 points. I mean, no one even. I mean, it was amazing they scored 14.
I know.
I agree. I was shocked they even scored 1.
I know. I even said I thought it would be lucky if they kept it in between 40. They kept it in between 10.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. And one thing after the Vanderbilt loss, everyone was questioning Adazio. But the thing is, listening to him and listening to his press conferences, I really think he's a good coach. When he was asked if he was losing the locker room, he answered so good. I know those guys rallied behind him. After that Toledo loss, watching that video with them carrying Thomas Panunzio, that locker room is playing together. They're playing as one, and you could just tell the chemistry is there. And that's going to take him far. And I think Adazio, he's a smart guy. He knows how to do it. That's why I was so confused. The playbook was so one-dimensional. Now they have a great team, or their offense is clicking. And Centeo, I think they need to use his legs just a little bit more. I know they use him at rollouts and draws, but they need to use him in the triple option. I think that'd be a great thing because his strength is his legs. It's not his arm.
Yeah, he's really fast. He's pretty mobile for a quarterback.
Yeah. And usually CSU's not used to mobile quarterbacks. Look at Patrick O'Brien, Colin Hill. Those guys were not mobile.
Yeah.
They were all pocket passers. So I think Steve Adazio is adjusting to that, and it's finally happening. I think it is. Beating Toledo was huge. They almost they almost beat Notre Dame. So that's a good accomplishment. Going into Iowa, like I said, number 5, you just can't. That's a big confidence booster. And if they still won against San Jose State, I really think they can, like I said, go in, beat New Mexico the next week. I think that's an automatic win. Wyoming, I know they're playing good football, but at the same time, CSU plays so well against Wyoming, and I think the boot's staying in Fort Collins. And Hawaii, they're not playing as well. The only losses I really see is from like Boise State. Yeah. Maybe Utah State, but I think they could still win on Utah State too.
I think the Utah State is going to cut. It could go either way.
Yeah.
It just depends on the day.
I totally agree. But yeah, like I said, that front 7 is so good, and their defense is so I'm really excited for their defense, and I think that's what's going to carry them to a 500 record.
Okay. Yeah. I hope you're right. Well, unlike Brendon, my hot take this week is actually somewhat attainable. I think that the women's volleyball team here at CSU will have yet another winning season and go back to being nationally ranked. Brendon, what are your thoughts?
Okay, I agree on the winning season part. I think that's possible, but the nationally ranked, that's just as far as a reach as the winning season. If you asked me this last week, I'd say there's no way. They were 8th in the Mountain West, but after sweeping Boise State and then Utah State, they moved to 3rd in the Mountain West. Yeah. So, and if they beat Wyoming, I think that puts them at 2nd in the Mountain West. I really think they will have a winning season, but being nationally ranked, look what Boulder did to them, and they're in the top 20 to 25, so they are ranked, and they just dismantled them. I don't see them being ranked.
I don't know. I feel like I kind of disagree with you. I mean, yeah, they lost against Boulder, and when Boulder came here, they swept them in straight sets. But the set scores were so close that if they just got if they just took a couple more chances, and if they drove the ball a little harder, I think it could have been a completely different match.
Yeah. Well, you know what the problem is with the driving the ball? They lost Brianna Reynolds. Last year, she led the team in kills. She was the lead of that offense, and honestly, Tom Hilbert and that squad, they're missing out on Brianna Reynolds. Thank goodness Sierra Pritchard's still there, because she is really good at assists. Oh, yeah. Every week she leads the team by 30 or plus more assists. She's now 3rd in the Mountain West in assists now, so she's a big part of that offense. Kennedy Stanford, obviously I think she's not at Brianna Reynolds' level yet, but she can be. Yeah. I know CSU volleyball has always been what's going to be ranked and coming into CSU. But the last couple of years, they just hasn't been the same team. And I think that's just from the loss of talent and not on the coaching aspect, because he's one of the best coaches, I think, in college volleyball. I mean, yeah, obviously. I mean, it's clear that Coach Hilbert is very good. I mean, he has over 600 wins in his career. I mean, that's crazy good. Yeah. And I like what you bring up about Kennedy Stanford. I mean, she's still young. She's only a sophomore. Mm-hmm. And she had 16 kills in that last game and 13 in the one before. Yeah. I mean, I think that her and Sierra Pritchard at setting her up for those kills, I think it's working really well. Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but I mean, she just was named Mountain West Defensive Player of the Week. Oh, wow. That's good. That's really good. I think, but their defense is what's kind of hurting them. They're 2nd to last in blocks. That's, even last week against Utah State, or last Saturday, they had those close sets, 25 to 21. I think the sets they should have kind of blew them out a little bit more, because Utah State's been kind of struggling. Yeah. I was really impressed with the Boise State win, because I really thought Boise State was going to beat them. Yeah. But they still have a hard schedule going on with them. They still have to play New Mexico and ULV, and they play them twice. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it works. Yeah, I'm excited for that Wyoming game, though. For sure. Tomorrow night. Yeah, we'll be there. And well, Ram fans, that's all the CSU action we have for tonight. Tune in tomorrow for Bleacher Beat with Brandon Cruz. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.